Hello coaches, welcome back to another Modern Soccer Coach interview. Today we are joined by Diarmuid O'Carroll, Assistant Manager at St Mirren in the Scottish Premiership and Northern Ireland Assistant Manager. Talks about player development, coach development and everything that goes into that elite environment on a daily basis. Brilliant insight. Please give it a like, please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for the support. Here's Diarmuid, enjoy. Diarmuid, thanks so much for joining me today on the Modern Soccer Coach podcast. Very, very excited to chat.
Yeah, no, pleasure. Thanks very much. I've looked forward to getting on for a while, so it's good that we can make it work.
You're a busy man, and we're going to get into a lot of that there. The first question I want to ask you was around the multi-faceted role of an assistant, how kind of complex that role is, and that relationship with your boss is probably close to being the number one priority and getting them what they need. But there's not a lot in coach education, as you were just saying there. There's not a lot about that there and how to make that work. How do you personally, what are some keys to getting that relationship right and building that and getting that strong?
I think I do agree. I think in terms of coach ed, there isn't anything specific. If I try to think back, I've done pretty much every course under the sun. So, but it's like you look at all the courses, there's nothing really that gives you a look behind the curtain a wee bit in terms of what the reality is of the role. Like take my role, for example, at St Mirren, a relatively small club in terms of infrastructure, but I'm the point of contact for everything outside of the big things, if you know what I mean. So I've tried to make myself a kind of catch-all where the players have an issue or have a question or have something that's not worth the manager's time a little bit. I try and get them to filter through me. So same with the staff, same with the community staff, with the charitable staff, looking for appearances for the lads, all this kind of stuff. So I think a large part of the role is trying to take a lot of the stuff away from the manager's desk that he doesn't have to deal with. And obviously there's an element of empowerment then from the manager to allow me to make certain decisions and to trust me to filter it for him. But there's a lot of things I can't take off his desk. There's a lot of pressure. You're always the one who gets the criticism, who gets the abuse, he gets the praise, obviously, but also you're the one who leads the press, you're the one who leads the big discussions. So if I can take all the other things off the desk, then I think that's half the battle. People just, I think, associate, you just go and take a few possession games and passing and maybe oversee and you're the player's mate or something, do you know what I mean? But it's never as easy as that. And I think we've had a unique relationship whereby the biggest thing is understanding the manager, understanding his needs, understanding his traits, understanding his profile and what he's looking for, and then try and dovetail with that. Try and understand that, listen, do you know what? I'm there to be the other side of the coin. I'm there to be a sounding board. I'm there to be someone when the pressure is on that he knows he can look to his side and think, well, at least he's got my back, and completely trust him. Because I think in football naturally there's a kind of suspiciousness of everyone outside of your inner circle. Do you know what I mean? So I think the fact that we're very close and I can kind of try and anticipate now that I know his profile and know his personality so well, I can anticipate what he needs and what I can try and do to make his life a little bit easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that piece on understanding is very much an art, understanding what you need to take them and what you can kind of manage, especially those relationships with players. I imagine that if it's match day -1 or match day -2, whatever day the squad is named is probably the day that people are normally a little bit out of sorts and want that clarity. Do you guys have a policy with people run it in different ways? I guess once the team is named, is there anything that you can share there?
We haven't got it set in stone, really. We would try and name it as late as we possibly could. So we're off on a Thursday, so we work our week Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off on a Thursday. We periodise it that way, and then we'll train on a Friday. And right towards the end of the session, the gaffer will shape his set plays, maybe walk through some tactical things, just reminders. So that'll be the team. He'll name the team then and there. So he doesn't believe in naming the team the morning of, say, the first thing on Friday morning, because you go into a small-sided game, someone gets injured, then you've disappointed someone or annoyed someone who now going back to bring him back in. So he tries to name it at the latest possible moment. If there's injury concerns or different things overnight that we might be worried about, then we'll caveat the team a little bit with, listen, things can change overnight and we might soften it with the people who are disappointed, basically. We'll only ever pull the people pre-game if they're dropped from the previous game, or if for any reason they're real significant, like the club captain or something like that. We might have a chat with them, and that's where I'll probably come in to have unofficial chats with people. So a lad might have came off the bench in the previous game, done well, and rightly thinks he's in the mix, and then has the disappointment that he didn't make it. I'll probably make a point, and we'll talk about it in our morning meeting. I'll just say, listen, I'll pick him off. I'll get him, like, just kind of like a casual conversation while the manager's leading the set plays with the goalie coach. I'll probably just get myself around a couple of the subs and just give them a prod in the right direction. Do you know what I mean? Just to try and manage it and keep it away again, keep it away from the manager's desk, but also give them the value that we know you're disappointed, we know you feel like you should be in, but keep going. And then generally, if there is a real disappointment, someone wants to knock the door and have a chat with the manager, we've kind of set up a culture scenario where that would be done on the Monday morning. It wouldn't be done pre-game, and it wouldn't be done on the match day. It would be a case of we'll wait and see and do it on the Monday morning or the next training session.
Yeah, again, I find it fascinating. A couple of things I find fascinating there. The first piece is like, all right, so again, trying to see how you learn that, or trying to see if that's learnable. Sometimes ex-pros are labelled that they're not really into the coach education and not really committed to learning the craft and all this jargon that people talk about. But I find with ex-pros is that the nuances that you pick up, you'd have picked up that years ago, that the person who you just said, who came on, did well, and then naturally expects to start the next game. That's something that you've probably picked up as a player.
Yeah, 100%. And someone I saw, I think it was on a podcast, or someone recently summed it up really well. And I think if there's a lack of communication, you fill the space with negativity. And I'm a big believer in that. So it could be anything. You might have texted me and I didn't text back. You instantly start thinking, is he fall out with me? Is there a problem? Is there an issue? What did I say previously? Whatever. That's a normal conversation. But if you do that in the hyper kind of sensitive world of football, and you don't communicate why someone's maybe not starting, or listen, keep going, you're doing brilliant, I understand you're disappointed, but all you can control is what you're doing, then they'll start to escalate and go, right, well, he doesn't like me, the other boy's his favourite, I'm never going to get a game, what do I have to do, what do I need to do to get in the team? So it's trying to nip all those wee thoughts in their head, because their world is football. They're centered around trying to get a game on a Saturday. So when you haven't done that and you haven't given them their goal, you've got to try and nip it in some way, with even just a little comment, even just a little pat in the back, even just a little message or something. It doesn't have to be too official and formal as a meeting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Brilliant. Match day -2 off. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, the manager's done it now for kind of 4 or 5 years. He's done it. So how we would do it is we would do recovery top up on a Monday. Then we go all small sided. We overload the small sided, the kind of short, sharp, Axel, D-cell, small possessions, small units, and small games. So a bit of a burner on a Tuesday. And then the Wednesday becomes our bigger spaces tactical day. So we will shape everything, do everything that day, run through maybe 2 8 minutes or 2 6 minutes in terms of our 11-11. Shape it tactically with a view to the opposition. We'll also have our pre-game meeting on the Wednesday morning. And that means they've had 2 good days. They've 2 working days as well as the Monday. And then they can kind of clear themselves, get out of the building, clear the mind off Thursday. And they come in for almost a free your mind session on the Friday, which is just boxes, games, go and play. And then we nip them for 10 minutes at the end with set plays and a reminder. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's worked well. I think we had something like 97% availability or something this year for medically and physically. So it's one of them things. When it keeps working, just keep doing it. Do you know what I mean? But traditionally, people would probably take the Wednesday, but we quite like the 3 days and then taking a day off.
Yeah, I could see a real freshness physically. But I'd imagine a lot of coaches would be petrified to do that because of they've gone away. I think when you talk about filling that space with negativity, I think coaches fill time off space that the players forget everything. So the tactical information that's being said on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is gone on Thursday, but you guys obviously think that it still sticks.
Well, we do, and to be fair, I delivered on Coach Ed back in Belfast before the international trip, and that was one of the questions. It was an Australian coach said, "Is it not very early in the week to do your tactical stuff with the forgetting by the Saturday?" But again, the last 15 minutes of the last session before they play is just reminders of everything we do. All our possessions are focused on the type of game we're going to face. So it might be a possession all about playing against pressure. It might be a possession all about how quickly can we switch play. All these things all week are built towards and given the narrative towards the team we're going to play. And then what we have introduced is, I mentioned we do our meeting, which might take 15 minutes to deliver, but 4 or 5 minutes of clips on a Wednesday morning on the opposition. But we'll do 90 seconds reminders on the opposition on the match day when we do the set play meeting. So at 1:30, 1:15 on a Saturday, I'll generally lead it. It'll be a reminder, 90 seconds. This is what they do in possession. This is what they do out of possession. This is their shape, and this is what we're going to hurt them. Done. And that kind of shapes the manager's team talk and brings the whole week together a little bit. So again, no, it's like everything. It's a game of opinions is the best phrase a lot. Everyone does something differently, but again, when things work well for you, you get in a wee rhythm, and I think the boys enjoy it.
You've worked in roles around this really interesting age bracket, 16 to 20, when there's a lot of investment going into football now with that age group, where support staffs are starting to grow and transition from the youth game into the pro game, and people are starting to really focus down on it. And obviously financially there's really, really good rewards if you get it right, but it's quite a really difficult age to manage, where a lot of it's kind of going to coach led. And we've talked about the world of professional footballers. They do like space, they do like autonomy in their work. And when you're moving young players from that kind of space of very much coach-led environments where 16-year-olds, and now they're getting into like taking a bit more responsibility for the game, how on earth do you do that?
It's to be fair, it's not that I find it easier, but I feel like that was the crucial age of my own career. And I feel like that's probably the age of my career where I didn't progress as I wanted. And that's nobody else's fault. There's no regrets, and it's nobody else's fault but my own. But I kind of always try and look at that age group and think, right, can I change their path a little bit? Do you know what I mean? Where you can see people making the errors, you can see people cutting corners, you can see people excelling, but also maybe short in certain areas where you think, well, you're going to need this physically, you're going to need this tactically. Little reminders to keep them like their feet in the ground, but also I'm a very positive person, very positive guy. I'm really encouraging and stuff like that. So I'm one that likes to say, right, well, you're doing brilliant, but if you want to get beyond St. Mirren, if you want to get beyond where we are, which is what I want for you, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. And if you're fueling everything, I think, in a positive way, then you're saying, right, well, don't just aim to be a regular at St. Mirren, aim to be a regular for Scotland, aim to be a regular for Northern Ireland, aim to play in the Championship in England, aim to change your family's life. And if you kind of always work back from those discussions, that's how you then try and catch them. Because you're looking at anything, whatever you can do to try and catch them and say, right, well, this is the thing that motivates him. He wants to make as much money, he wants to be as flash as he wants. Brilliant. But how can I make that reality in terms of what he needs to do on the football pitch? And we have an environment where it's a very hard-working environment. We don't believe that training is a throwaway. So if you don't play well and train well, you won't play. And we've been in a position where when young lads in particular have come up and trained well and done well, then we've been able to stick them in the team. So I think if they know that you like them and you love them and you want them to progress, and you're kind of pitching the whole thing that way for their development, then I think it sounds mad, but you can hit them a bit harder and you can love them a bit more, and they'll take it. We had a boy, Ethan Erahan, and he left. He was kind of, when we came in, he had been the big prospect, and he kind of found himself on the bench before we came in. But he's someone that we both loved from a distance. We thought was fantastic. I think he was only still 19, 20 when we came in. And I think there was people actually had joked to us, and we said, "Oh, we'll make him a £1 million player. Like, we'll make him a player." And they were like, "Oh, good luck." Like, do you know what I mean? I think that ship sailed for him. And you're like, okay, fair enough. And he left. He didn't leave for £1 million, but he left. He's now at Lincoln, and he's on his way to going for possibly over £1 million at the Championship. So it's just finding the buttons to push. And some people, Ethan, for example, got shouted at because he had the perception that he was like slack and big time and had a swagger. But once you got in about what he needed and what he wanted, then we were able to develop him and get a big reaction. So, so it's just finding what button to press. I think it doesn't matter. And that doesn't matter if it's 18 or 28. Like, we've got 28-year-olds who say, right, well, I want to make as much money as I can the next 6 years because I'm going to have to go back into the real world. So it's like, right, well, if you want to make more money, we need to get you out of this club. To get out of this club, you need to do X, Y, Z, and I'll help you do that. If you don't embrace it, that's on you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm sure you saw the Alex Inglethorpe interview on the high performance, and just what stood out to me, I'd love to get your thoughts on it, but what stood out to me was the personality alongside the performance, and how the environment kind of shapes that, the little things, even the charity work that they're getting them to do, the phones, the cars, the contracts. I mean, how much of that do you think is transferable to any academy, or do you think a lot of it's Liverpool? So
yeah, I think it's hard. Like, obviously I've got Conor Bradley away with Northern Ireland. He's done brilliant, broke through and stuff like that. But you look at all those young prospects and they're all earning, for a guy in the street, they're all earning fantastic money. In football, some of them still think they're earning in comparison buttons to what they should be. But these guys are at the start of their career. But the consistent with the boys I played with, or who went on to have fantastic careers at my age, are the same consistents as they are now. They're generally the lads who work really hard. Yes, have talent, but they do everything right. They do all the basics. They have confidence, bordering on arrogance sometimes, but that's not a bad thing, to be able to play in front of 50, 60,000 people that believe in yourself. But it's then always making sure that they don't skip what they should be doing. They don't like take a liberty. They don't cut a corner, and that can be policed by you. It can be policed by your medical staff, your sports science. It can be policed by senior players. It can be policed by young players. Anybody really, youth academy coaches. But I think, and what we found at smaller clubs, and it must be challenging at the bigger clubs, is we have a community of staff that isn't that big. So literally we know what we want the message to be to the prospects. So we want everyone to be policing it. So the guy who leads the gym sessions is policing it, making sure he doesn't take any liberties. The physio is on him massively for timekeeping and strappings and medical things and insoles and small stuff. And it's like, well, if everyone's hitting you from different directions to be a professional, you almost by accident become a professional. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of trying to make sure that you're consistent with your messaging, and that it's not top down where it's like, oh, go see the manager, he's going to shout at you like the principal. It's every teacher in the school hitting you at different stages to say, no, but that's not acceptable. Do you know what I mean?
Conor Bradley is probably my old man's favourite player. Every time I speak to him on the phone, he's did you see Conor Bradley? And he's a United fan, so it breaks it out. But obviously, being the Tyrone connection and all that, everyone talks in Liverpool. Every interview I always pick up is about his personality and his character, which I always find interesting. But obviously, there's a high physical output there. What jumps out, do you think, initially that you look and say, oh, that's Champions League level almost?
I think his athleticism. I think that's, you look at it, he's very, very skillful, of course, and he's very good with the ball at his feet. But I think he's just sheer athleticism, his willingness to run and his ability to run, his speed, his power, and he's yet to find his kind of man body. He's still quite scrawny in terms of I'd say in the next 18 months you'll see him fill out and really become a man. And I think I can only wonder what he'd be like then in terms of his sheer athleticism. Like, we played Spain, and I think it's no disrespect to the rest of the boys, but Conor could start for Spain, while I don't think any of the lads could. So Navas played right back for Spain. For me, Conor would do better than Navas in that position, which, considering he's played, 30, 40 first-team games, 50 first-team games in his career, is staggering. Mindset-wise and as a boy, he's just a normal lad. But again, believes in himself, knows he's good, he's riding the crest of a wave, really respectful, really coachable, does everything he can do to try and maximise his body, like does extra sessions in the gym, looks for the advice, leans on the medical staff, leans on the masseurs and the sports scientists for all the guidance he can. And I think that's the environment that they've created at Liverpool, which is one, you run, two, you train hard, and three, you use everyone to try and make you a top player.
Jeez. Sounds so simple, doesn't it? But like,
I know.
And a lot of players do one of those three, you know, like you would know better than me.
I think it's the coachable thing more than anything else. I think the first thing you have to, people always use phrases about like hard work beats talent and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately, are you coachable? Are you teachable? Do you listen? So that goes down to respect. It goes down to your own belief, your own confidence, where your ceiling could be. Like Conor is playing for Liverpool. I coach St. Mirren. But Conor will listen to me like I'm Klopp. Like, do you know what I mean? He's that much respect for his coaches and that much respect for the people around him. He might not agree with everything I say or Klopp says, but he'll listen to it, take it on board, and try and improve. And ultimately, if he keeps doing that, then he's going to get to, not that he's not already, but he's going to get to right to the top of the game.
You've been quite honest. I read this article, it was written a few years ago, the Telegraph article, about where you talked about your falling out of love with football when you were at Celtic at that, again, that age bracket we're talking about, and then you said there about how you kind of keep that in mind when you're working with that group. Did that come from the pressure of the environment? Was there anything that the club could, you know, if they had psychological support, do you think you could have benefited from it? Or where do you think that you're looking at the gap that you're looking to fill now?
I think it's, listen, everything's easy in hindsight. And again, I keep going back to it. I have no regrets. All the experiences I've had have now made me better at the career that I'm doing now, and I would make an argument this is what I'm more built for. And people would look and read articles and go, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't have any confidence." Like I'm not a shy guy. Like I'll chat away to everybody and confident fella. Like stand up for the people and speak. But it was just within football. I took everything to heart. I took everything to the extreme, to the point where I froze. I couldn't let my ability, my talent come out anymore. And I've spoke about it enough, but I genuinely wouldn't have played five-a-side. I didn't. I wanted to quit, and that had gone from a year or two previously being a real hot prospect at the time, and still relatively had a decent career in comparison to others. But I just, whatever it was, I think, and I go back to what I mentioned about you work all week to play on a Saturday. I didn't fill my time, my space with anything else besides I took a really bad touch in the boxes at the start of the session. And then that's all I can think about, how bad I was. So I used to go home and go, wow, I was so bad today. Like, almost embarrassing. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I going to do? And I can't get a game for this team. And where am I going to go when I get released? And what am I going to, like, it just spiraled. And my mind didn't go anywhere else. I didn't do anything outside of training and playing, and everyone I knew, because I was away from home, was a footballer. So again, you go back to that confidence and belief and arrogance. I probably didn't have that at that point. I had it as a young player coming across, and whatever happened, some switch went to my head, whether it be through injury or lack of form or disappointments. I seemed to become a lot more sensitive to issues and sensitive to bad performances. In hindsight, I should have probably gone to uni or something in the afternoon, or done a course, done a language course, done something. If I could have done something outside of football, maybe then I would have got at 2:00 and thought, yeah, I'm still thinking I'm crap at football, but at 2:00 I then got to go in and listen and study and learn and take my mind off it. And I think coming out of the full-time game, that happened. I considered football fun again because it wasn't my career. I was doing my career during the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. Filling the space is interesting. I haven't heard that one before. But another thing I'm really fascinated by is it seems now that as a community, coaches are really accepting that the psychology has a real place in the environment. But I don't think we really have pinpointed where that is. I listened to a great podcast with two people I'm sure you know, Michael Caulfield, who's worked with AFA, and I don't know Michael personally, but he was on Dan Abrams' podcast. And two different psychological approaches of how Michael's very much in the shadows, walking around, informal, impacting that way. Dan's more listen, I'm here, let's be formal, let's go put them into processes and let's do that there. And the two of them didn't argue, but they both presented really unique. I never looked at it before. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, it's funny. I'm a big fan of Michael. I obviously don't know Dan. That's no disrespect to Dan. I would have loved to have Michael in my dressing room or at the club when I was at Celtic. I think he's in what he does. He's fantastic in how he does it. It's so casual. It's the players at the time probably won't feel. They won't understand what he's doing. Obviously, now looking at it from a coach's point of view, you see it from outside and you see from your own experience. You can see the kind of paths he's bringing people down, and you can see how he's trying to build the relationships. But I think that kind of informal psychology and informal support, informal kind of mental health checks almost a little bit with people, I think is invaluable. I know he does a lot of work with, for example, when players are out injured and coming back from injury and stuff at Brentford, but also just riding the disappointment and boys that have travelled away from home from South America, being able to speak to someone and have that comfort zone would be amazing. The other person that always comes to mind, and I would never have known it because I don't know the great Jimmy Nicholl before I joined the IFA. I knew Jimmy to say hello to and things like that. That was it. But Jimmy's role as assistant manager is psychological. Like, Jimmy has the best relationship of all the staff with Callum Marshall, who's 17. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But it's because he does the same thing. He picks people off and has a game of pool or has a table tennis or darts or has a coffee or has a joke, plays like foot golf before training. And that's the moments where he's having discussions about Callum and him and his family and his digs and his future and his loan and his agent and everything else. And he start to build relationships with every one of them individually. So he's doing it from a coaching capacity. He's almost doing that. And I think that's something that we've all become so much more aware of, but it's also a skill you have or you don't have, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, brings us along nicely to the personality of a coach now, and how important that those skill sets are. And I had a quote that I saw from Michael O'Neill said that when he was announcing your addition to the staff, he said you're a vibrant young coach, and I thought, Jesus, I'd love to be called vibrant. Well, what do you think that was in relation to? Personality, mannerism of the pitch, the type of sessions you run? What's he talking about there?
I think it's probably those together. I'm a very positive, enthusiastic person, like, in that way. I also coach in that way. I believe that the coach bringing energy and enthusiasm and fun and whatever brings that out in the lads. I think there's a lot of sessions that you as a coach have to drive. And when I see a coach standing almost kind of like lethargic and just rolling the ball in, going, yeah, good, and just seeing his time in, that 100% that comes out in the session. I probably more so than anyone else that I've seen, I'm 100 miles an hour in terms of the energy I try and bring to it, because I genuinely believe, not only do I believe I'm in the best job that I could be in, and I absolutely love what I'm doing, so it's not fake, it's not put on, it's just I love every day I go to work, and that could be with Northern Ireland or with St Mirren, but I absolutely love it. So I love coming in, delivering the sessions. I'm very lucky to be able to do that and work with top players who were better than what I was as a player. So there's that side of it, but also I just genuinely believe if I can't bring the energy and be happy to be there and be enthusiastic about the drills and the detail, I'm going to lose them. And in particular, you see it now when you go in international. It's a long trip. We were away for 14 days there, probably did 10, 12 sessions and had 2 games. And you've got disappointments, you've got people away from family, you've got weather, obviously a lot warmer. So if I don't bring the energy, then they're going to be lethargic, and then we lose one of our only 10 sessions that we get with an international team for the next 4 months. Do you know what I mean?
Again, it sounds so simple, but I've spoken to coach educators about this, but I feel that as coach education, which I'm sure you would agree has made a massive advancements over the last 10 years, and the information, the type of research, the content, all that stuff is, but what it's also doing then is you're not getting assessed by your ability to deliver anymore, or there's no real focus on that, which means that you talked about there the the coach that's standing with the watch and the timings. Like I see that a lot today. I always think that it's overlooked. That I think it's great to hear a top level professional coach say, energies. There's a correlation between your energy, you're saying, and the output in the session.
100%, and I think it helps the teaching. It's like you. I keep using the word teaching. We go back to school. Who are the teachers you like the most? They're not the guys that didn't want to be there. They're not the guys who sat in their chair and just looked at the clock and said, "Yeah, just read your book, lads, chill out there, whatever." They're the people who brought a little bit of life and had a bit of to and fro, a bit of fun, a bit of interaction, maybe a little bit on the edge with some of their banter and stuff like that. But you build a relationship. You could find the correlation. You could find a relationship with them, and as a result, you preferred what they were telling you. And that could have been geography, or it could have been science. It's the same with football. The boys love the content, but ultimately everyone's at their work. You're still going to your work, so you don't go into your work every day and skip into work. But if someone's there to try and get you going, and control you and bring you around and show you what it's all about and show you it's there for them, then you go, right, okay, brilliant. Now I'm bought in, now I'm on board. And you get more from them as a result. And again, like everything in football, that's just my belief. That's just my way of thinking. I look at a lot of top people and think, well, I can see Eddie Howe being enthusiastic on the training ground. I could see Brendan being very enthusiastic in the training ground when he was younger. I could see Pochettino 100 miles an hour. Like, not everyone's like that. But I have to look at people, what I think I could aspire to being like in the profile, and saying, do you know what, I'm never going to be Sir Alex Ferguson in terms of that profile of person. That's not my personality. That's not how I carry myself. But I can try and be Brendan Rodgers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, in that way. Because if you have to be what you are, and I'm an enthusiastic, quite positive person who loves his job. I'm obsessed with football. I'm obsessed with my job. I'm obsessed with developing and improving. And I like having a laugh, and I like doing it in a positive way. So why not bring that out in your coaching? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, your obsession of it, your shows, and your commitment to coach education, where you mentioned that you've taken every course, but it does look that way. I mean, where do you get the enjoyment from the education? Is it from the content? Is it from the environment? Is it the relationships? Or what's the biggest thing for you?
I think I always want to try and get better. I want courses to be hard. Like, I think the worst thing, it's like a job. The worst thing anyone could say to me, oh, it's a nice wee cushy number. It's a nice wee cushy course. You go and do that. I have no interest in that whatsoever. Like, do you know what I mean? I would prefer someone to say, tell you what, that pushed me. That put me outside my comfort zone. You say that to me about anything in the realm of football, I'll go, right, brilliant. Can I do that course? Can I fit it in? Can I go after it? Can I try and travel to do it? Like, I travelled when I was living in Belfast. I travelled to Scotland to do courses, travelled to England to do courses. I'm now doing the same thing where I can't get it from courses because there's not too many more courses I can do. But I get it the other way by going and trying to say, right, well, last week I'm delivering to boys that have played in the Champions League and trying to tell them how to coach, trying to teach them how to be a coach. And they're looking at picking holes in everything I say, every little step I make, every intervention. And I'm embracing that, going, well, this is how I get better. This is how I develop again. Because if I can pull this off with you picking holes, you know yourself, naturally you pick holes in everything that the lecturer, the guest, whoever else does. And they ask you questions and you go, well, this is why I did it. If I can justify everything I do, then I'll get better off the back of it. And we discussed off air different things, and I had questions from Australian coaches, from English coaches, and it does spark ideas. It sparks something in your head. And then the lucky thing is I was able to hang around and see other people work and have discussions over a coffee and see people's presentations. And I was actually lucky to see Michael Caulfield for a few hours. So you just pick something up. And again, I use the word obsession. It's probably unhealthy, an unhealthy obsession, but I want to get to a point where I feel like I've learned all I can learn, and then it's up to me. I'm nowhere near that. And that excites me to think, right, well, I can go and watch someone else work. And they could be a level 1 coach, they could be a pro lessons coach, but I'll pick something up. I've no doubt I'll pick something up. And then the art of coaching is you see something, you see a session, you see something, you think, oh, well, I'd change that. And the arrogance and confidence in your own mind goes, well, I'll make it better by doing this. Do you know what I mean? That's the nature of the beast. And that excites me even to do that. Do you know what I mean?
The Northern Ireland environment, going through a bit of change with Michael over the last 12 months. What are some things there in the environment that, when you're away, and you obviously think, and outside looking in, you think, 12 days, great chance to do all this tactical work. But the reality is 12 days recovery and added all that in, not always the same. What are some things in that environment that with the new staff that, he's looking to really focus on?
I think we've embraced the fact that it's a young set of players. Like the average age of our team is very, very young. You have the likes of Johnny Evans, Josh McGuinness, people like that are part of the old regime that are still involved. But generally, our main players are Trey Hume, Conor Bradley, Shea Charles, boys that are 20, 21 years of age. So it's trying to think, right, well, we're going to create a team for 10 years. We're going to create a philosophy for 10 years, a culture, and trying to make them the big players before they are. So some of the lads in the last campaign were in their first 5 or 6 caps. So by the time, think of how mature and professional and experienced and how much experience they've gone through, good and bad, by the time they get to 2025. He's done brilliant. He's brought in new people. So he still has a consistent where he has Jimmy. He has Andy Cousins who's in as well, who helps him out from a recruitment and a kind of external point of view in terms of different bits. His Caroline is the physio still there. The doc is still there. But then he's also brought in myself. He's brought in new analysts, one from Notts Forest.
Jonas Mumfold.
Jonas, you know Jonas, yeah?
Yeah, what a legend. Sharp guy.
What a man. And he's another one, and listen, he's another one who's very, very humble, but Jonas is different class. Like Jonas, again, is one that could go right to the top as a coach analyst. I think he's finishing his A license now as well, but he just got married actually, Jonas. He was away, he missed this trip, he was away getting married, so he was slacking, but no, he's but things like that, bringing in new voices and bringing in the right voices. He brought in Jordan, who's one of the head sports scientists at Brighton. So people like that were just bringing new spark and new enthusiasm. Michael Caulfield has obviously been around the group, which hadn't been done previously. So it's just trying to make it a high performance environment with a blend of personalities and ages and stuff in it. And so far, it's working quite well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I used to be a season ticket holder back in the day before I came over to America.
Nice.
Those are the days way before. What was Spain like up close? What was that level of player? You mentioned there about Conor and Navas and fitting in, and as a collective, what made you go wow about 3 minutes into the game?
I think you looked at the middle three in the pitch, and you had Rodri, Pedri, and Fabio Luiz from PSG playing against St Mirren, Caelan Boyd-Munson, and Shea, who's at Southampton. But it's like some of the little nuances in terms of their movements without the ball, and they're effectively playing chess. And I've seen and been against a lot of like very, very good teams, but I probably haven't been exposed to that level of world class team to play against. And we were discussing it. So we played 3-4-3 on the day, with at times fell into a 5-4-1. So the discussion was, should we flip to a diamond? Should we flip to 3-5-2? Should we flip to a back four so we have more players in midfield? But I think we all agreed live in the game and watching the game back, they find your weakness. That's the thing. So at the minute, the 3-4-3, they found the 6. If we went 3 in midfield, they'd have overloaded us wide. Do you know what I mean? So it was little things like that. And in particular, we did a lot of stuff after the game with the players. So we split it into units, and we looked specifically and showed them what Morata did. For example, the centre forwards, his movement was like as good as I've seen. Pedri, Rodri, their movement as midfielders was as good as you've seen. The choice of pass, how they engaged you to press you to try and be missed, so that they were comfortable engaging you to move you to get their mate on the ball in between the lines, basically. So just an education, and I actually said that after the game, and I was speaking to a few people after the game. I said it's an education for all of us, because that is the absolute peak, the absolute elite level of the game, and they were extremely ruthless. I think there was a large portions of the game we were quite good, but when they got their chances, they took them, and everything was so structured and organised and sensible and easy, but done so professionally and so sharply. And it ended up then that we couldn't get near them because they were that much ahead of us. But we mentioned how young the group is. So I had a chat with Conor, I had a chat with Trey, I had a chat with a few boys afterwards and said, isn't it a shame we don't play a top team again in the next 2 or 3 games, because we're going to be so much better for this game. And they'll be like, yeah, because they were like, oh, we had good things and we had chances. So if we just improve this and improve that. So I think it'd be brilliant if we could go and play Germany. Do you know what I mean? And go play England or something like that now off the back of that experience, to say, well, how much better can we be? In the same way as did well against Denmark, did well against Romania, then it rolls into a very good performance in Scotland. So it's kind of that. But yeah, they were. I still have the game, and I don't rewatch. Once I've analysed it and clipped it, I don't really watch too many games, but I've rewatched it twice since, just for my own education. Do you know what I mean?
What was interesting, Murata? Like, what? Because there's a 9 in a possession base, so sometimes that 9. That movement sometimes difficult. Was it in the build-up phase? Was it in the final third, or where were the big jumps?
It was the final third. So if you actually watch the goal that Fabio Luiz scores, that Yamal comes in and delivers, I think it's the third or fourth, and the goal that he scores, which is a header cross in from Navas and a header. You watch his movement and the build-up to those 2 goals, probably 30 seconds before it in each goal. He's occupied all 3 centre-halves. They all at one stage think they have him. They all at one stage think he's not their man. And they all at one stage probably think he's offside. And then when the ball comes in particular for the one from Yamal's cross and he, the midfield runner, he probably occupies both Ballard and Johnny in a way. And the midfield runner goes, but he never touched the ball. He didn't actually get an assist, he didn't get a goal, but his movement was so good that it drew our line and drew our defenders' attention that someone else scored. It was honestly like he lived offside. The man who played him onside was the wing back or fullback. It was never actually the centre half. He was always the wrong side of the centre half. So yeah, I could speak about it. You could do a complete podcast on just his movement for the goals. It was amazing.
I mean, if he's given Johnny Evans issues, and Johnny would have seen a lot of that just shows you. Yeah, wow.
And it's it was fascinating. Pedri as well was like. He was literally playing chess with midfielder and a centre half behind him, and he was just going off their weaknesses. So whenever midfielder moved, he shattered it and moved in the opposite direction, and he was free as a bird to get the ball. Do you know what I mean?
Different game.
I know, different level. Like, but brilliant.
All right, last couple for you. You know, all the stuff you said there about you're obsessed with football, but there's everyone has an energy battery at some stage, and you've got a young family too. So how do you fit into 2 coaching jobs plus the coach ed plus everything else you're doing, and then keep the family happy as well? How do you do it?
I think, listen, it's heavy in terms of like I mentioned last year, I didn't get much of a break because of the World Cup last year, but this year I've managed to get a week here and a week there and things like that and a few days. So it's been brilliant. But the good thing for me is that my wife is 100% bought in. She is my best supporter, the person that kind of is there when the times are hard, because I'm asking her to move across the country. I'm asking her to move to Glasgow, then move down to Manchester, and then move back up from Manchester to Glasgow. You could turn around tomorrow and say, can you move to Prague? Do you know what I mean? And she'd be the first person to say, well, if it's the right thing, let's do it. She'd also be the first person to say, right, well, don't follow the money. If it's the best offer for you in terms of your development and for what it is, go and do it. Similar to when I agreed to do the international, I said, well, this is going to take 40-45 days a year off of what I have. This is going to take the rare weekends I get off. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. But she's the first person to say, well, this is what you need to do for you to achieve the goal that you want, and ultimately to help us as a family in the long run. If you do achieve it, then we're all in. And it literally is. Every time I get any level of success, I feel like it's a kind of a team win, a family win for us.
Sorry, Jeremy, that takes away a lot of guilt, right? Because like if you're doing that without that real support, then every time you're away, you're feeling bad probably about it. But it sounds like when she's there, that helps, and she's supportive, that helps. Yeah,
100%. And I think it's funny. I watched Eddie Howe on the overlap again. I've rewatched it. I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe. I think he's different class. But I watched it for the second time traveling home. And Gary Neville asked, kind of said, like, when do you switch off or how do you switch off? I probably don't. I switch off by chasing the wee man. I switch off by having a bite to eat with my wife on the day that he's in the crash or something like that. That's how I switch off. But I am obsessed with what I do. I don't really have too many hobbies outside of it. And we're not mad socializers. So we're focused on what we want to achieve. And then when the ball goes away, we chill out and we enjoy like everyone else, and we just relax and live a nice simple life, which it probably brings you back down to earth again, like you mean.
Brilliant. Last one, advice, coaches that want to follow a similar pathway, either the international or the club or the pro level assistant life. What's your advice to get there and sustain it and do it at a high level?
Coach every level you can. So coach any level at all. So coach, if you can. I spoke to Josh McGuinness about this. He spent his whole life. He's getting into coaching. Spent his whole life being a professional footballer. It's easier to motivate a footballer with the threat of a fine than it is to motivate, for example, a women's footballer who is coming from work and pays to play. So coach any of the levels you can. Coach youth, coach female, coach male, coach professional, coach Sunday league. Even if only for a few sessions, coach summer camps. Understand the frustrations of everything, because that'll help you be able to value them when you get to the high level. But also, it'll be able to, if you can motivate a kid at a summer camp who doesn't want to be there, then you can motivate a professional player away with Northern Ireland. And then the other thing is, I always have a thing where I would hate for someone to say to me, "Oh, do this for me, will you, and get it together, and I'll speak to you later on." And I say, no, I can't do that. I'm not able to do that. So I think get yourself as upskilled in all the facets of the game. So I'm obsessed with analysis. I'm a sports coach, studio, and all these things. I put together my own meetings. I did the analysis at St. Mirren for a long while. Sports science, I understand it. I do some of the runs to understand how hard they are. So I think just understand as many facets of the game as possible. Because taking the passenger is the easy part. It's never just that. You have to say, do you know what? I can put my hand to anything. And at smaller clubs in particular, because that's where you'll start, you have to be able to and willing to and capable to do a job and a half. And that's the best way of getting ahead.
Brilliant. Wow. What a way to finish it. Gemma, thank you so much. Amazing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate.